In this video, we'll be answering the question, how rich is Tony Robbins? If you haven't already heard, then Tony Robbins is probably the richest motivational speaker and life coach right now. He made his way through poverty and childhood trauma to transform his life in the most epic way. From 80s infomercials and self-help seminars to his Fiji resort and award-winning Netflix documentary, there's not much that Tony hasn't done in his life. He's made the kind of business decisions that make him the king of confidence and even earned him several titles like the CEO Whisperer. So if you're trying to learn how to get rich, you should probably take some tips from the man who owns a 500-acre private island in Fiji. Tony's current net worth is about $600 million. He's actively involved in over 100 different businesses, from health and wellness to coaching, which bring him a combined total of $7 billion per year. Now that you know all about his huge fortune, let's dive into how Tony Robbins went from rags to riches within 10 years. First off, let's talk about how Tony's life began. When you first look at his net worth, you might assume that he was born into tons of generational wealth. But guess what? His life story is the opposite of that. In fact, it's hard to believe that Tony came from a working-class background. He left home at the age of 17 and decided to support himself by becoming a janitor. Yep, you heard that right. His first income was $40 a week. Since that obviously wasn't enough to support him, he took up some more work at a local moving company on weekends. On one of those weekends, he ran into a family friend and noticed that this guy had totally transformed his life in the past few years. When Tony asked him how he did it, the guy told him that he went to Jim Rohn's seminars. And of course, being the best decision maker in the world, Tony took a huge risk for himself. He spent $35 on a ticket to one of Jim's seminars, and apparently, it changed his life. After the seminar, Tony went up to Jim and asked to work with him. Not long after, Tony became his assistant and mentee who organized most of Jim's seminars. Listening to all that motivational talk made Tony develop a unique speaking style for himself, but he also decided to add his own high-energy vibe and behavioral psychology into the mix. And of course, the rest is history. Tony took his own seminars to the road and kept getting more and more success. By the time he turned 26 years old, Tony was officially a millionaire. Next up, how did Tony make his first $1 million? Everyone says making your first million is the hardest job in the world, but for Tony, that really wasn't the case. He built his worth in the business world through infomercials. Back in the 80s, he created multiple self-help books and his own seminars which he promoted on TV. In fact, he had such a unique way of running those infomercials that more and more people came running to him for advice. And that's what made him a millionaire. According to Tony, he made $40,000 in his first year, and in the next, he finally hit the $1 million mark. After that, he hasn't ever made less than $1 million. By the 90s, his company was already bringing in over $50 million in revenue. Then, by the early 2000s, Tony was taking home over $30 million in profits. Now let's talk about Tony Robbins' super famous seminars and exercises. Over 4 million people have attended Tony's live seminars. They're super famous for making you feel empowered and give you the motivation you need to change your life. In fact, around 50 million people across 100 countries have heard his audio and video trainings. Tony released his first ever infomercial called Personal Power in 1988. 9 years later, he began the Leadership Academy seminars that gave training and self-improvement skills to all attendees. In fact, Tony even helped every attendee improve their communication skills and build more leadership skills. Now, Tony's most recent online seminar is called the Comeback Challenge. This 7-day training session is especially targeted to help people overcome any obstacles and setbacks they're facing in a post-COVID world. Over the years, the most common themes of all his programs include facing your fears, overcoming obstacles, and self-improvement. In fact, there have been many times when some of Tony's exercises got backlash for being too extreme or unethical. Let's give you a quick recap of his most trending techniques. First, there is neuro-linguistic programming. This modeling technique takes a play on behavioral psychology, where an attendee is asked to copy a successful person's conscious and unconscious behavior. According to Tony, NLP can also be achieved by changing your physical state. If you want to control your mental and emotional states, you should explore the factors that influence you in the first place. One of the biggest factors that has an impact on your mental state is your physiology, which includes your posture, facial expressions, breathing patterns, and even gestures. Most of us develop mental and physiological patterns that keep putting us in the same states over and over again. For example, you might have a habit of hanging your head down and dwelling on every mistake you've made in your life. After some time, you'll start feeling disheartened and depressed the second you put your head down. That's simply because you've trained your brain to feel a certain type of way every time you put your body in that posture. Now, you might have noticed that most successful people have healthy morning routines and keep their heads up. To perfect the art of Tony's NLP, you should develop patterns of physical movements that give you powerful and happy state of mind. Ideally, this means you should stand tall and breathe deeply. Try it out and see how confident you feel. Next, Tony loves to make his attendees do firewalking to build confidence. Firewalking is actually an ancient ritual that demonstrates strength, courage, and faith. It's the ultimate metaphor for walking through life's challenges and your own fears and insecurities about them. With this super controversial activity, Tony plays on the idea of how most people have limiting beliefs. If they're successful in one area of their life, like being rich, they think they're lacking in another part, like relationships, for instance. With firewalking, Tony helps the attendees push through with all these limitations and become better versions of themselves. In fact, he's even led Oprah Winfrey through a firewalk once. Not only does firewalk make you step out of your comfort zone, but it also helps you assume responsibility for your own actions. No one's forcing you to walk through fire. You're doing it because you want to. Once people realize that they're the only ones responsible for their thoughts, actions, and behaviors, they're bound to feel super empowered. Lastly, Tony's all about those energy-rich activities. According to the super popular life coach, you need to get up once in a while to feel motivated. Even random physical activities like dancing can improve your mood and give you the serotonin boost you need. Most of his trainings include physical exercises like dancing and massages, and if you've ever heard him talk, you'll easily notice that he's always full of energy and radiates it to everyone in the room. So, how much does Tony Robbins earn from all that motivational speaking? The truth is that he's earning millions of dollars per seminar. The most popular one, called Unleash the Power Within, has apparently gotten Tony over $10 million. Just like his seminars, people can also book Tony for private motivational talks. One little birdie told us that he charges anywhere between $300,000 to $1 million per gig. One important lesson to learn from Tony Robbins' financial success is to always charge what you're worth. Not many people would be bold enough to charge $1 million a day, but this guy knows that his words are worth that much. Apart from seminars and events, Tony also offers private coaching services for celebrities and leaders. He knows he's well known in the business industry, so the next best thing to do is to capitalize on that network. The motivational speaker has a long list of clients from different industries. He coaches hip-hop artists like Usher and Pitbull, super successful athletes like Serena Williams and Conor McGregor, and even politicians like Bill Clinton. We've heard that he charges around $5,000 to $7,000 for 6 months of sessions, and up to $15,000 for 12 months of private coaching. That's a huge sum of money. Wait, what about his best-selling books? We already told you how writing and selling motivational books is how Tony got rich in the first place. It's actually how most people heard of him back in the day. But now he's written quite a lot of books. 7 of them have already become international bestsellers, and he's sold a respectable 15 million copies. You've probably heard of his most recent book that he co-authored with Peter Mallow. It's called The Path: Accelerating Your Journey to Financial Freedom. Even though many authors don't make a lot of money from their books, that's definitely not the case for Tony. Considering how many copies he's sold, he's probably earning a big chunk of bucks from his books. Now, what other businesses does Tony Robbins own? Well, he's the chairman of a holding company that owns more than 50 private businesses. Some of his biggest money-making business include Robbins Research International, Twin Lab and Metabolife, and the infamous spa resort that he owns in Fiji. He purchased the Namali Resort and Spa in Fiji back in 2014 and aimed to create a safe haven for relaxation, rejuvenation, and personal growth. Since then, the place has become one of the most popular resorts in the world and offers a wide range of activities for all guests. It even has a world-class spa, a huge variety of dining options, and even a custom-made fitness center. The infamous Fiji resort also has some of Tony's best educational programs and workshops. They follow topics such as health and wellness, interpersonal relationships, and personal development. Apart from the spa resort, Tony definitely knows a thing or two about running a successful business. That's why he decided to launch his own corporate training and development firm called Fortune Practice Management. Over the years, this company has worked with huge names in business like Coca-Cola and Nike. They provide custom training programs that help organizations achieve very specific goals that may not seem achievable, like increasing overall sales by a whopping 20%. Also, did you know Tony is a big philanthropist? After earning all that money, Tony decided to give back to the community by founding the Anthony Robbins Foundation back in 1991. He later changed the name to the Tony Robbins Foundation because that's the name most people recognize him with. No matter what the name is, the foundation provides financial support to all underprivileged groups of society. That includes the youth, the homeless, the hungry, and even prisoners. One of their biggest activities is called the International Basket Brigade, which provides food and household items to more than 2 million people across the globe. Another huge act of philanthropy that Tony did was donating all the profits from his best-selling book to Feeding America. Since then, he continued to provide more than 300 million meals to anyone in need. He even works to provide fresh water to over 250,000 people each day in a village in India to fight waterborne diseases. And that's a wrap for this video. Now that you know how rich Tony Robbins is, are you ready to kickstart your own career? Even if you don't think you'll succeed, hearing Tony's story should motivate you to take a chance on yourself. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you check out other videos on our channel. Click now to watch.